Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and assemble our skimmer box hat, our skimmer hat box, I should say. And we're gonna begin by taking these pieces and connecting them like so at the little score line here. So you have 4 of these pieces total. So you're gonna go ahead and just get those nice and aligned up to the score line. And you're gonna repeat this process 2 more times until you have a nice long strip with all these little score lines. So go ahead, or I should say with all these little tabs. So go ahead and connect these all together. Do your best to get them aligned and butted up right against the score line on each one. And then once you have them all together, you want to go ahead and close the little loop by gluing it and closing it off. You want that little tab on the inside, okay? So that's gonna form a nice little circle. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold over the tabs on either the top or the bottom. Doesn't matter which side you do. You wanna go ahead and fold the tabs over. Okay, now once you have all the tabs folded over, you can go ahead and flip it over. And then what you're gonna wanna do is grab these large circles and find the one that has the little hole in it, okay? That is gonna be your liner piece. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fit that right inside, making sure that it's on top of all of the tabs, okay? And that's gonna help shape the brim of the hat. So before you actually put that in there, and it helps to put this piece on a piece of cardstock or something, you just want to put glue on all these little tabs. And again, this doesn't need to be perfect because it's just a simple liner piece. It's going to help us just make sure that we get this nice and circular. Okay, so we're just trying to form a nice circle with this entire piece here, just to kind of help begin to mold the shape. So again, just slide it in there, make sure it stays above the tabs. Sometimes those tabs want to kind of slide over the liner. So do your best to get that in one shot, and even I was unable to. Just slide those back underneath the tabs. If you missed a couple, just slide them back under. Okay, and then just work your way around to begin forming the base of this thing. And it kind of helps to use your fingers to kind of push up against this. Okay. So do your best to get that centered. It's kind of like we're making a pie crust or something. Okay. Okay, so once we have that all in place, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab one more of these really large white circles, and we're going to adhere that to the bottom. Okay, now this is gonna be your final bottom, so do your best to get the glue out to the edge as far as you can. And again, with this glue, it does dry clear, and there's gonna be a liner that goes around this, or a little panel, so you can, if a little bit of glue squirts out, it's not the end of the world. Make sure that you get the glue to cover this entire area, and then take this piece, just pop it right on top, and do your best to get it nice and centered and aligned. And you may need to kind of just, jimmy this into place and kind of shimmy it, I should say, not jimmy it. I don't know where I got the word jimmy. Just shimmy that into place. Now, what we're gonna do, because we want to kind of reinforce this is gonna be a box. So we've created a little reinforcement piece that's gonna go inside, okay? And it's basically a large box. Okay, and this large box is made up of these pieces here. what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect these pieces. And again, this is not something that anybody's gonna see. It's eventually gonna be covered up, so it doesn't have to be perfect. All we're doing with this is just creating some stability, okay? So you just wanna connect these 4 pieces together, side by side, using these little tabs here, okay? So just connect those together like so. Give them a good chance to dry too. Get the glue on there as good as you can. And again, this doesn't need to be perfect because nobody's gonna see it. Okay. So that's kind of what it should look like. And then you may as well go ahead and fold these tabs over. And we made these tabs and gave them a ton of surface area just to kind of strengthen it and also make it easier to apply the top and the bottom of the box. So you want to fold those over. And then you can go ahead and close this up with this tab here. We're going to put glue on that tab there and just attach it to the inside here like so. Again, this doesn't need to be perfect. As long as you've got enough glue on there and it holds and it forms a nice box shape, that is the main objective. And then we're going to go ahead and put glue on all 4 of these tabs. Again, this you do not need to worry about being meticulous about because nobody is going to see it. So do your best still to make sure that you're creating a nice box, but don't obsess over it too much because again, no one's going to see it. And you can flip it over and run your fingers along the inside. Let's push that down, and we're going to do the same thing on this side here. Okay, and we're going to close that up. Again, I'm just kind of speeding through this because it's not ever going to see the light of day again. So as long as it gets a good grip and give it ample time to dry, it will serve its purpose. And really its purpose is to kind of keep these edges up and erect. Okay, so there's that box. And what we're doing with this is we're simply gluing it right to the middle of our hat, or the brim of the hat. And again, since there's going to be a box in the middle of this thing, we need to support it so that whatever you put inside the box, doesn't kind of, warp it too much and cause it to bow. Okay, so we've got that pretty much nice and centered. And that's really all you need to do with that, okay? Now what we're gonna do next is we're gonna close this up. So we're gonna take all these tabs and fold them over. Okay, so we have all the tabs folded over. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna place glue on all these tabs, and we're gonna take our final white circle, the large circle, and we're gonna pop it right on top to close this off. So go ahead and get your glue on all of these tabs and then simply pop it on there and work your way around with your fingers, making sure that you get it out to the edge and that you've got a nice little brim there. Okay, so there is the foundation for the hat. Nice and stable in the middle here. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna work on is the bottom of the box. We're gonna use this piece here, and then when you cut these out, they all look kind of the same, except that you'll notice that this little tab area for the base of the box, it's a little bit wider than the one for the lid of the box. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to connect these. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place glue on this little tabbed area. Get a nice bit of glue on there. And then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you overlap and hide the score marks. Okay, so get that nice and aligned and flush at the top, and that those score lines are covered up. Okay, so just push and hold that down until it gets a good hold. Okay, and then again, make sure that top is nice and flush. And you're just going to wrap it around, and you're going to glue the other end to itself. So we're going to place glue on this tab here. I'm going to close that up, and again, just make sure that that score mark is covered up, okay, so that you don't see it, but just barely. Okay, so just hold that down until it gets a good grip. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take and fold these tabs out. So go ahead and fold all your tabs out. Okay, and the next step is to take this piece and just slide it over. Slide it down over this piece that we just formed. Slide that all the way down. Just like that. Okay, should fit nice and snug. And then what we're going to do is just going to flip this over, and we're going to put glue all along the inside there. And since it's nice and snug, you should be able to just get a nice ring of glue all the way around. And again, no one's going to see this, so if you get a little sloppy, that's okay. And just flip it over and work your hand around the entire perimeter. And just make sure that the entire thing gets a good grip. Okay, so you're going to take your time a little bit more than I am. Okay, so that is the gist of that. Okay, now we're going to take this piece and going to glue it right to the top of this piece, okay, and that's going to form our little compartment. Okay, so you want to go ahead and put glue on the entire brim portion of this. You want to get out to the edge as close as you can without getting too close, because as you push this down, that glue is going to seep outward. And then of course you do want to get glue on the inside of this as well to get a nice seal. Okay, so we're going to flip that over right onto the base and glue that down. And then that little box that we created in there, that's going to help us kind of get that in place as well. Okay, so again, I'm kind of speeding through this a little bit. You can even push down here to get that middle part to really stick. Okay, just do your best. Get that middle part to stick. Kind of push around the outer edge. Okay, and then give that enough time to dry. Okay, and then we also have this little piece here is going to slide over this, and you're going to glue that down like so. Okay, that's a nice little decorative panel. And actually, while we're at this point, we can kind of take a look at these long strips here. And what you're going to do with these is you're going to glue them to the side of the hat. Okay, these are just going to get glued down. You can glue these down one at a time, get one of them glued down, and then they do have some score marks. Okay, there are some score marks here, as you can see, and those are just kind of used for guidance. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to glue them all together to form one strip. You can glue them one at a time, and then that way, if for some reason your hat didn't come together precisely, you can overlap it slightly, or if you don't need as much of an overlap, you don't have to overlap it completely, but that's going to go all the way around the side of the brim of the hat. Okay, so that's that piece. And then really all that's left is to create the lid. Now the lid goes together the same way as the base of the hat. Okay, so you've got these two pieces here. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue one to the other. So I'm going to put glue on this guy here. And again, make sure that you get the glue out to the edge, really right up to that score mark, and then place this piece right over those score marks. Okay, and the most important thing here is to just be real patient and apply a lot of pressure to make sure that those two really stick together and become friends. Okay, then you're going to loop it around. You're going to overlap the other one the same way as we did with the base. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that the most important thing is that you get those score lines covered up so that they don't show at all. Okay, and then you can just kind of push that down on your table and apply pressure, make sure they get a good hold. Okay, so once you've got this glued down, you can go ahead and start pushing these tabs over. We're going to start closing off the lid of our hat. Okay. All right, so we can flip this guy over. Let me move this thing out of the way. And you want to grab the piece with the little hole in it. That's your liner. And that's going to go right inside. Okay, and you're going to glue that into place. Okay, and once you've got that in place, now I'm not actually going to glue mine down. You're going to take the other white piece and simply glue that to the top to form the lid of the box. And so then this is going to slide right over the top. Okay, and then really all that's left to do is, well, you have a nice little liner piece that's going to go on top of the hat like that. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your two decorative panels that are going to go around the hat, and you simply want to glue one to the other using the score lines here. I'm going to cover up the score lines so that you can't see them. Okay, so now that we have these two strips connected, what I'd recommend doing is starting kind of in the center here, and you see how you have a seam here. You don't want to put glue on this whole thing. Okay, it doesn't really matter how you do it. Just get the middle nice and covered, and then also get a nice line right along the edge. Not too far so it doesn't seep, but enough to where when you push it, it'll kind of work its way out. And then get a nice line on the edge here. And take the seam and line it up with the other existing seam on the hat. Okay, and do your best to get that centered, and then just wrap it around the hat, making sure that you keep an even border all the way around. Okay, and then just want to make sure that you get them to overlap on the other side. And it might help to take this off and kind of use your surface to help get that glued down. Okay, so that's roughly what it should look like when you have it on there. And then also have one additional decorative piece that you're basically going to construct in the same fashion. Okay, we're going to glue these two pieces together at the little score mark. Okay, and these little patterns here, you'll know you have it right because they'll be seamlessly aligned. As you can see there, that little wave sort of continues seamlessly. Okay, and you're going to adhere that just to the bottom so that it's flush with this bottom piece. Okay, so it's going to go like this. And again, I would use the seam, that one same seam, and get that glued on like so. Okay, so that's roughly what that should look like. Okay, and that's pretty much it. That is your lid. And aside from that, we do have these two little pieces that get glued together, and then you can adhere that to the hat. And I'll show you that here on the final one. Let's take a look here. Okay, so that's going to get adhered right there, just like that. And now all these flowers, we have a separate video for the assembly and the inking of all these flowers. The placement of these little leaves can be wherever you want to put them. And then also one little tip is what we did so that we didn't obstruct the actual lid from going on and coming off. We pop dotted everything to the side of the lid, okay, so that you can take it off and the flowers will kind of hang on there. We probably use 3 or 4 pop dots, and then that way you can still slide it on, okay, and it sits there nice and pretty, and then you can take it off without worrying about smashing anything if we were to, say, adhere it to the actual brim itself. So that is your Skimmer hat box.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.